he meets with homicide detectives, and George agrees to cooperate with them.
You guys are friends, okay friends, I would say. I mean, I usually wouldn't rat out my friend, but this is just so severe, I gotta do it.
Ultimately, George recognized that this was a very, very serious matter. Obviously, very much more serious than anything these kids had ever done before. George tells the police Doug Gustafson leans out the window, aims and fires one round. Did he actually aim it like a rifle?
It was really quick. I don't know, I was sitting back and I was telling him, you don't want to do that, but still didn't make me do it. In any case in which you have somebody coming in and telling you a story about somebody else committed a crime, you have to get some kind of corroborating evidence, some reason to believe this person is credible.
What George has to do is get Raymond Sheely and Doug Gustafson to talk about the shooting directly to him to get it on tape. And there is your evidence.
That's when they wired Kerr up and had him talk to Gustafson and Sheely.
Special place. If you enter those doors, something happens. When my bubble bursts, I burst back.
Birds of a feather flock together. I am not flocking with that bird. There's a lot of conflict going on with 8 women. The only conflict is you. I gotta stop calling people.
Doug Gustafson leaned out the window with that sniper rifle and he killed Jeffrey Kane. And George Kerr was in the back seat, saw it all. If George Kerr keeps his mouth shut, he's an accessory to this crime.
And I think that was probably most of the motivation for George to go and report this to the police.
So the police, based on what George Kerr told them, went and obtained a warrant. That's when they wired Kerr up and had him talk to Gustafson and Sheely. I've worked in a lot of cases where you have cooperating witnesses wired up, and it's always pretty intense.
George goes out and meets with Doug Gustafson, and they talk about the shooting that had occurred the night before.
Oh, he's a bump still.
And George says to Doug on that recording, he says, "Doug, why did you have to kill that guy?" And Doug responds, "I didn't mean to, George." That's all they needed. It was an admission from Doug Gustafson that he had pulled the trigger and fired the shot that murdered Jeffrey King. George also is wired up and has conversations with Sheely. Sheely is much more circumspect in his responses to George Kerr's prompting questions. So they don't obtain a smoking gun admission like they did from Doug Gustafson, but ultimately they obtained enough that they felt that they were ready to charge Raymond Sheely.
My fault.
Doug got arrested first, and then RD got arrested.
Gustafson and Sheely, they're charged with murder for killing Jeffrey Kane. George's decision to cooperate leads to a decision for him not to be charged by the state of Alaska for any exposure he might have had for the Jeffrey Kane murder. That greatly upset Doug's older sister, Peggy. The siblings there were very close. Peggy was firmly convinced that Doug was innocent of the Jeffrey Kane homicide.
It was 2 or 3 days after my son was killed that the district attorney called the house, and he said, "I believe we've got the people that killed your son." And I said, "That's good news. But you better get a conviction, because if they get on the street, I'll take care of the problem myself."
turnaround from the arrest to the trial is remarkable. Today, you'd be lucky to get a case like that to trial in a year and a half, much less 4 or 5 months.
The Jeffrey Cain murder trials had been high profile. Everybody in town, was aware of what had happened and were following the media coverage.
Gustafson and Chile trials were severed, so they have 2 trials. Gustafson went first.
His trial was in early March of 1991. George Kerr, of course, is the main witness for the state of Alaska. Obviously, his testimony is the key component.
It wasn't like an aim thing, it was just pointed in the general direction of the car.
Prosecutors sought the conviction of both Chile and Gustafson. The reason was that Chile purposely positioned that car so Gustafson could take that shot. If Chile hadn't cooperated fully by positioning the car that way, the murder never would have happened. So Chile is just as guilty of the murder of Jeffrey Cain as Doug Gustafson.
19-year-old Douglas Gustafson and 20-year-old Raymond Chile were tried and convicted for killing Eagle River resident Jeffrey Cain in a drive-by shooting on the Glen Highway.
Chile and Gustafson were sentenced to 60 and 65 years in prison, respectively.
Peggy Gustafson genuinely believed her brother, Doug Gustafson, wasn't the shooter. I think she really believed he was innocent, and that George Kerr was lying.
In fact, she was convinced for whatever reason that George Kerr was probably the one who fired the shot at Jeffrey Cain.
Peggy was in total denial that her baby brother, the one she raised all of his life, could be guilty of such a heinous crime. She was sure someone else must have pulled the trigger.
Following the trials in March of 1991, George is still here in the community. He ceases to be part of the Chile crowd because those kids don't want anything to do with him. He decides at some point that he's going to join the Navy.
And I was there, so
in early September, George departs the state to join the Navy.
Dave Kerr picks up a package from the post office, and it's for George. He takes it home.
His wife, Michelle, is in the kitchen just down the hall. David Kerr opens the package. He's killed instantly.
They're processing the remains of David Kerr in an autopsy at the state crime lab.
A number of things were collected from the body.
One of the key things we found was forensics were able to recover chemical traces of MMAN. And the reason it was important is because MMAN is added to an explosive called Tobex. It's a high explosive that is frequently used in things like mining and logging.
But the single most important piece of physical evidence was a piece of the microswitch that was used to set off the explosive.
This little piece was recovered from David Kerr's body cavity. It is part of a roller switch. And this is typically something that is used to complete an electrical circuit. So as long as the switch is closed, the circuit isn't complete with the wiring that goes between that switch. So that when David cut the tape on the box and lifted the flap, completed the circuit into the Tobex, and detonated the explosives.
Come on, what the fuck? I see it bouncing that way, nigga.
It was only by a miracle that Michelle Kerr survived. Later, investigators were able to talk to her.
Quick. Step up, bro.
So you start connecting those dots, it became pretty clear that Doug, that she was referring to as Doug Gustafson.
But the people with the best motive also had the best alibi. They were incarcerated.
Don't let psoriasis get in the way. With Pulse, up to 90% of patients saw a significant improvement of their psoriasis plaques. Some even saw 100% clear skin. Don't use if you're allergic to Taltz or starting to get checked for tuberculosis. Increased risk of infections and lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor about infection symptoms or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop, worsen, or if you had vaccine or plan to. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Ask your doctor about Taltz.
I wanted to show you guys something that has been truly bringing me joy, and that is how I'm fresh. It is always difficult for me to choose what meal I want because they are all so good. I'm always thinking about the productiveness of my body and the quality of my food. It's so important. HelloFresh checks off all those boxes. So all in all, I get a variety.
Yeah, they wasn't really the jump shot with this player, bro. These motherfuckers just, I'm telling y'all, a million, man. All we gotta do is play a zone with this motherfucker. Yes. When you start playing like a little zone, I got it. We really gotta go do little speed guns. We in the game. That's what got me fun. I was like, oh, holy shit, I just missed that 2 minutes.
Probably
I didn't like how maybe pull in that last one, for that last one. I let go of the controller. I was like, what's going on? I thought my controller was drifting.
Look, that nigga quit it and rejoined back.
They finally got a break.
And I'm sticking them this time.
On the heels of the explosion, prisoners over at the prison where Raymond Chealy is housed and where Douglas Gustafson had earlier been housed, they have a couple of prisoners tell us that they actually saw him.
That's got me done.
That Raymond Chealy had prepared, the people that he wanted to kill.
Yeah, that was so far so good. I ain't gonna lie, there's a couple plays I got burnt. Stupid burnt. But I know that it gets a little good. Oh yeah, it's over. I ain't bumping and getting those steals off rip. It's
this nigga right here.
Angry with him because he was in on the initial event. Angry with him because he didn't turn state's evidence. And maybe angry because he might have
jumped the wrong way.
They were able to pass notes in jailhouse lingo. They call them kites. They would utilize.
I do remember this player sometimes with that. I be losing hella stamina.
Doug over in the other jail cell. They were also able to coordinate
a
specific time of day to call the Cheatley house. They have 2 cells.
He doesn't move. I'm gonna have to stick on him. He does that little pop out. This fool gotta stay on him, but he ain't on him. He keep dropping to the paint. Like, we ain't got it.
These guys do this from prison. It's becoming increasingly clear that it's really not that difficult.
Oh, you got that.
Now investigators have to deal with the issue of these guys are in custody. It's probably next to impossible that they constructed this bomb themselves in a correctional facility.
Good cookies, bro.
And mailed it to George Kerr. So someone had to help them.
Investigators start looking at all the people that were close to Gustafson and Chealy.
Right, you got that pain. You gotta step in.
Who these people have been talking to.
Oh, too far
and what they've been talking to them about. Their family,
come on.
Friends.
Doug Gustafson.
He got there.
Sister.
Get that.
Peggy, Craig, who are living in the area. So we determined we need to know a little more about those people. So we decided to review the prison tapes, trying to find
this nigga
anything of evidentiary value.
Oh, God.
Oh, I lied.
Doug has.
Okay, it wasn't just me, but I liked on the last play too. That's why I was true. I was like, hold on. Still got real player too.
Thanksgiving, we're all in the Anchorage Police Department listening to tapes. It seemed like it was endless. There was some bleak time, for sure.
Oh, ooh, a wag.
The prison
Ooh, a
tapes
wag
that
right
I listened to Peggy.
That was a good pass though. I think it's a good dude.
I agree. Of course, it's
Has to be.
he was still alive.
I hope he gets the credit afterwards.
Whoa.
Peggy's involved in the hatred of George.
Wow.
The same mind he is, getting
even George.
We all have headphones on, and we're all listening to recordings of these things.
This ain't get out of this fucking way.
Says, boys, I think I found something.
Now that you fix your car, remember?
Doug Gustafson speaking with Peggy in a code. The more we listened to it, the more plain it became that they weren't talking about a car. They were talking about a mailbox.
As soon as you find out which road on the sliding one, clearly in place, like I described right below the surface.
I'll say.
Side. It's on. And let's push towards the center. It's on. Okay.
What it sounds to me like is the triggering device for a bomb. She burns up some switches and batteries, trying to make the device work. He tells her one conversation that they'll get certain switches from Radio Shack.
No,
he made
it.
That was part of the switch was examined back in the lab.
No way I just hit that. Does Fruity really be working?
Well, I first it is positive, separate, and negative.
I like that.
That's crazy. I can't believe I even made that, bro.
I couldn't believe how stupid I am when it comes to figuring out my car schematics. Is there a book I can buy?
A book? I don't think it'd be smart.
Give me that, nigga. Stop playing with me.
Douglas is becoming frustrated with Peggy.
Oh, you shot that shit way too far, man.
Whatever she's wiring.
I for sure thought he was going to step in.
I can't overhear, you know?
I use double team this nigga.
Okay, did you get everything straightened out?
That's right.
We determined
Step on him and just try to step on his man.
that
Look at that shit, boy. Stop
is
playing.
their brother Craig, the middle child, who happens to be a mechanic and understands electrical wiring.
Cookies.
It was a eureka moment.
Who's shooting that? Told you.
I've always been prone to the authentic, genetically.
I know.
It's getting older.
Yeah, I was real. Stretch your arm out on that nigga.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. I guess anyone.
Taking me back to the hairline.
Oh man.
Alright, I'm back to me. Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
You might have heard of Carvana, and that we sell cars. What you probably didn't know is that we're in the business of making you happy. We believe buying a car should be something that gets you hyped up. That you should be empowered to shop when you want, where you want, wearing whatever you want. And that your new car ought to come with newfound happiness and zero surprises. So we promise that we'll treat you right and put you in control. And all of us will stop at nothing to drive you happy. We'll drive you happy at Carvana.
Peggy Gustafson had talked to Douglas Gustafson about sending what the investigators believed to be an explosive device, and strongly suspected their brother Craig Gustafson was similar to that device.
It was a eureka moment. That caused them to focus on the Gustafson siblings. Greg was perceived to be the black sheep of the family.
He wasn't necessarily estranged from them, but Craig was not necessarily close to Peggy or Doug. So we start focusing on Craig, who appears to be sort of a weak link here.
Really what we needed was evidence.
So,
You had an idea of how the events occurred and what transpired. Without evidence, you don't have anything that you can trial. And one of our inspectors on the team gained some trust with him.
Craig is contacted. Initially, he's not cooperative with the investigators.
That's me.
Craig wasn't necessarily hostile to the investigators, but he certainly wasn't, forthcoming. So they had this continuing.
Ain't no way I miss a fucking wide open midi but make a hard fucking contested S3, bro.
It increasingly becomes clear that Craig was very troubled by the fact that David Kerr had been murdered as a result of this explosive device.
I make that.
And
I love this game.
he decides to pick up the phone if he wants to talk.
Oh, I ain't it. Stop on me, bro.
On March 12, 1992, The surprise
No.
Greg
Oh
Gustafson
no.
filed postal inspectors so that he could confess to the crime.
I just did that. No, I just did that.
Told
Good shit, bro.
investigators
Do I have a identification name? Is that?
and his sister Peggy was involved in making and mailing the bomb, and they did so at the direction of their brother Doug from prison.
Doug Gustafson and
Oh, right on his ass.
involved in this bombing plot. Doug had asked Peggy to build this explosive device, and she was able to get the components.
Well, I'm knocking down from 3 at least.
Ah, why you make me run that way? Start to.
Okay. Peggy's observed her attempting to put the device together and was concerned for her safety because Peggy's about 9 months pregnant.
Oh, stop on, nigga.
So Craig tells her, I will put that device together for you. I don't want you to blow yourself or the children. Craig takes all the components, assembles the device.
No, what did he do? He's miss.
The judgment of human history drives to the post office with her daughter in her car.
Oh, hell no.
Over a bumpy road
Oh,
and a
I'm not
bomb
doing
in the backseat.
What? This nigga
This
scared?
motherfucker.
That nigga scared, boy. That nigga scared, man. You can't be scared. You can't be scared, nigga. What the fuck wrong with this nigga?
You think of all of the postal workers,
We gonna block that
truck
motherfucker.
drivers, everybody else that came in contact with that package could have been
That's me. I gotta keep fucking remembering that I could just blog with this fool, bro. I'm playing like I'm playing on my guard.
This information, it's because it corroborates.
Why he
exactly
keep?
what they
Oh
find.
my! No, why? Cause my
They
fucking
decided to
shit.
not take him into custody right away.
Like completely out of that play.
case
I'm completely out of that play.
to testify. We need to ask him
Coming up.
get more things to corroborate. We need him to make our case. And if we
Wow.
arrest him,
How the fuck? He was always in front of him. That don't make no sense, bro.
except through his lawyer.
No, that's all.
Because of Greg's cooperation,
Okay.
we had the
That nigga just reaching.
probable cause for search warrants.
Didn't search Peggy's.
I even waited a second. I wanted to see if he would punch that.
Already Chile. His parents live out by Lake Cluton, which is a
Fuck out of
Hey,
here.
let's go, baby.
And so they've got a number of law enforcement officers that had to cover that entire property to try and find if there is some location where these bomb components have been stored. What
Where you at, nigga? That nigga way up at the top of the key with me.
They also find a lot of abandoned cars on the premises, which have evidence of explosive damage.
Oh, Reese, nigga.
Doug was a football, so he printed out soldier Fortune magazines about building pipe bombs. And so we build these
That
bombs,
nigga is
man, and
spamming
go
the
out
shit
and
out of
freeze up.
X.
You know,
He
we go
square
to
as a
the lakes,
mother.
man, and throw pipe bombs down and blow up sand.
This is something they had been interested in, and that it wasn't something like they were starting from scratch. They had
Fucking get out of here, nigga. Stop playing with me. Give my shit back, bitch.
The investigator had enough evidence that they could be satisfied that they had the right people and put it together for a case.
The investigators know that indeed they have a conspiracy involving 4 people. Raymond Shealy and Douglas Gustafson were able to form this bomb plot. They know that Peggy Gustafson is involved in assembling and ultimately nailing the device. They know that Craig Gustafson, in fact, built this device.
Craig Gustafson's confession was the turning point that pretty much set in motion getting charges filed against the whole family.
Keeley was arrested this morning at Cook Inlet pretrial. Gustafson was arrested at Spring Creek and Seward. Peggy Gustafson Barnett was arrested at her Anchorage home this morning. Count 1 of the complaint charges each of these defendants of mailing explosives with the intent to kill. Count 2 charges each defendant with the use of a destructive device burning in relation to a crime of violence.
Craig Gustafson has also been charged in the federal complaint, but he has disappeared.
These used cars look the same, but how can you tell which one's the better deal?
Bring in Dad from Sarasota. Hey, Dad.
This one's broken.
Dads are great, but let's say, show me the Carfax Valley Hotel where you get the most accurate prices based on the vehicle's accident history. Look for me at Stop and Repair. Shop at the all-new Carfax.com.
Kendra, State Farm has options so you get a great rate. Besides streaming, choose what works for you. Nice. Well, like thrillers.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
On March 29th, a couple of weeks after his confession, Craig Gustafson surprises us again by disappearing. The investigators try and get a hold of Craig Gustafson, and they can't find him. His girlfriend says he left. She doesn't know where he is.
Craig Gustafson is still at large. You do have a warrant for his arrest. We are looking for him.
One of the best pieces of evidence in the conspiracy is getting one of the conspirators to talk to you.
How can I get the speed boost up?
Craig Gustafson, in case he goes away, we needed him to testify.
Officials are offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Craig Gustafson.
He's maintaining contact, with his girlfriend. It takes several weeks.
We did obtain a tap on his girlfriend's telephone, and she agreed to cooperate with us in order to keep him from getting injured or hurt.
He makes a call from a payphone on April the 18th. This girlfriend is able to keep him on the line during that particular phone call long enough that they're able to trace the call. They determine it's coming from this payphone at the Roosevelt Hotel in the Los Angeles area.
On the phone call, Craig tells his girlfriend, "They will never catch me," at which time we hear, "You're under arrest, freeze." He drops the phone.
So then on April 18th, all of these folks, Raymond Shealy, Douglas Gustafson, Peggy Gustafson, and Craig Gustafson, are in federal custody. All of these individuals were ultimately indicted by the federal grand jury here in Anchorage for their involvement in the mail bombing murder of David Kerr. Craig Gustafson decided to plead guilty relatively early on.
As we say in the U.S. Attorney's Office, he joined America's team, entered a plea agreement under which he agreed to plead to certain crimes. Part of his deal was he would cooperate with the government and testify.
Peggy made a number of admissions at that point. Peggy said, "We didn't intend to kill anybody. This whole thing was to scare George Kerr into telling the truth, because she's got a very strong belief that he was wrongfully convicted."
To a large extent, she was a victim. She was a victim of the quicksand she got drawn into, because of her brother.
You see, yeah.
Peggy ultimately pled guilty to her participation in the bombing and agreed to cooperate.
Yes.
Doug agrees to plead guilty. It's conditional upon Peggy.
It's ass. Let's go, baby.
Sentence.
This is sibling love. Sibling love that's gone just totally awry. I could even think that he could talk his sister into doing this. And she did it.
Peggy wound up getting roughly 28 years. Craig, he was sentenced to about 22 years. Raymond Shealy was convicted of conspiracy.
What the fuck? Oh, I was like too many fucking bad plays, too many fucking combos. I'm fucking.
It's the same sentence as
I fumbled that one, I'll tell you that much. I'm used to pump faking, but I didn't do the pump fake. That makes sense. That was the first one, so I was fucking, yeah, that's me.
Three of their children were convicted of murder.
Not like that, yeah.
Unusual cases, at least.
People reached out from prison and used their own family
why would they do it?
to kill innocent people. It's astonishing.
It's great, bro.
The most memorable thing for me is Michelle Kerr, quite frankly. Michelle testified at trial. She was a strong witness. And so just having to go through and tell the story, it's extremely tough because it brings all of those emotions and all those feelings back. That's about as strong of an individual as you're ever going to encounter.
Dave Kerr was assaulted here.
Wow, he hit that?
Should never happen. Me and George are still friends to this day, so, you know, he's got to live with
That boy not want to guard me anymore? That works.
rough to deal with.
My shot off him. Yeah.
Told a lot of families, you know.
We think of Jeffrey all the time. He still has the bedroom. So I have his coat still
Excuse me, pardon me.
also with his name tag on it and stuff.
Ooh.
You know, even the grandkids tell us Jeffrey Schmidt. And they're all old now, but you know, it's Jeffrey Schmidt.
I'm wag. Fuck that wag on that.
Nah, we good. He fucked up. He had an open 3. So they took that.
Oxygen.com.
Oh, that was my steal. What's that about? Oh my God, what am I pressing square for?
What name? Blame.
I was at the police department.
I'll take it though.
It's about twin brothers, Joel and Michael Stovall. Paranoid, militaristic.
They had no regard.
We ain't going. I already know you.
The arrest escalated into a nightmare.
I see you.
They go by foot to where they've got a mobile home stashed.
My gangster boys, do my gangster. Let's go, baby. We on the 7. Oh my.
Going with a random nigga.
Oh my. I know this random happy. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he rapping
We
out.
gotta let it go to work. He's like doing his point. just be the back seat. We'll call your number when we call your number.
I think it's score only if you already have to score. Nigga, I think it's not.
That shit got me gassing.
Sheriff's deputy takes a 911 call from a neighbor of the Stovall family about twin brothers, Joel and Michael Stovall.
Jason arrives on scene, interviews the neighbor, trying to understand what was going on.
One of the brothers shot a dog.
At that time, Jason's supervisor, Tony Escobar, arrives.
Oh, give me the steal.
Tony has a good relationship with the Stovall family, and things got really out of hand at that
I
point.
look like a slap.
Jason Schwartz with Sergeant Escobar decide that they need to take Joel Stovall into custody.
We'll take a midi.
Then Michael Stovall arrives on scene.
Shooting, feeling back. We gotta follow him. Sweet.
Dr. Schwartz says to Sergeant Escobar, he's threatening me. I think we need to take him into custody as well. At this point, the entire Stovall family, there's about 8 of them there, are just up in arms about both boys being arrested. It's becoming a very heated, volatile
Baby.
but they do decide they're going to take Michael Stovall into custody as well.
Both of them were placed in Jason's car, which is against protocol, and one of the brothers was not searched. Jason quickly transports the 2 brothers back to Fremont County SO, and the supervising officer stated
I think this guy was tired, bro. I had no stamina. I literally had no stamina on that one. Maybe that's the made up a difference. Why do you think he was able to hit me? What? There you go. That's why he was able to clamp me up and stop my momentum. Back on. Yeah, I should have backed up to his school. He go ahead.
This part of Colorado is generally a
a safe
Ooh,
place, especially
that's
in
good.
like the Fremont County area.
A lot of Fremont County is in law enforcement.
I wasn't far back. I would
This
pop that
area of
motherfucking tree.
Colorado is known as Prison Valley because there are 11
Got you.
state
And
and
that my
federal
too.
prisons.
Take it all the way there,
That's what I wanted to do the first time, you know, to get the 3. But then this nigga just stopped completely out of it. I was like, alright, fuck it, whatever. I ain't gonna shit.
Joel and Michael Stone in Florence in the Fremont County area.
The Stovall brothers, the twins, anywhere they went, they would be walking together. It was eerie how similar they were, the way they dressed, the way that the brothers acted, the symmetry of the two of them.
Oh my lord. Pick it up. I'm out of stamina.
Yeah. Ah.
I grew up with the sister of...
I'm out of stamina. Don't you understand? Niggas blinking, he's still giving me the ball like that.
There was a veteran.
That's tough.
Out there, nigga.
Corrections. Everybody seemed to be doing good, and then like when those parents split up, all of a sudden they came out and I found that odd because I never heard of it. She never said anything.
I'm about to say, stop playing with me.
Did Michael or Joel, and we hardly seen the family all together at the same time because the boys stayed with their dad.
Oh yeah, them nightsticks guns is hitting now.
Yeah, that's all.
Have to go out of bounds.
Brothers, they were bullied quite a bit. They were pretty reclusive.
I just never seen them really interact a whole lot with others, and when they did, it was usually somebody was making fun of them or something. So.
Oh, I was talking.
I actually had art class.
You want, nigga?
He just did what he needed to just go by as a radar.
Come on in.
Say it.
I don't believe that Joel knew what their place was in the world at that point in time. I think they
No, why? I hate when that shit happens. I hate when that shit dribble the ball. I ain't even press square, but I hate that shit. That shit make me fucking dribble. Oh yeah, that's money.
Identify themselves as this is who we are. That's when the true detachment from society happens.
Oh, he got scared on that one.
Joel and Michael Stovall, they took on a more aggressive personality.
Growing up, they would go out in the forest and sort of reenact war scenes with each other.
Right back. There you go.
Hey. We out here damaging people. Hold on. We out here damaging people. Hold on.
He shot me in the air. That kind of put the brothers in the spotlight. Classmates would tease them, and I think the brothers felt really defensive.
And then it actually turned to the point where they were actually the bullies in school, where other students were afraid of them. And we would get reports of that they would be harassing them, thinking threats. And there was reported weapons that they would be carrying, knives and things like that. And I think they enjoyed that persona. They liked the image of being the tough guys.
Y'all spend the block? Or nah? They're like, hell nah. The other nigga is. The other nigga like, yeah, I'm for it. The other nigga is.
I want it. I think I know them. That's why. That's the T-Raw. I think I used to have them at it, bro.
Joel Michael were no longer those quiet guys in the back of the class.
Well, he wasn't good. He wasn't that good. He made him in 21.
After high
I could be wrong. It could be a total different person, though. Who knows?
They are struggling through a series of odd jobs, and they become more like their father. The Stovall brothers sort of a paranoid personality.
He would go off on these tangents with these
baby.
Probably law enforcement. I think he viewed us as a negative factor, and I think he instilled that in his sons.
Their father was known for inventing a plastic handcuff key, which were universal in that they would work on any set of handcuffs. And he taught the brothers how to make their own handcuff keys. They're militaristic, they're extremists, they're stockpiling weapons, and everybody knows this.
There were many calls that I handled with them. There were times that I had gone into their room and actually seen their walls covered in Soldier of Fortune magazine posters and images.
They got involved, very involved, Joel and Michael did, in acquiring weapons. I know that one of the brothers who routinely got very practical at using a .40 caliber handgun.
One were people carrying concealed handguns on them 90% of the time. Their behavior on the street really amplified anti-government, anti-law enforcement.
Ooh, my bad.
September of 2001, the Stovall twins were 24, and that's sort of when all hell broke loose.
That's what
They'd arrested.
Oh, I wagged. Fuck, I wagged on that.
Jason was transporting both of them to the jail in his car.
Ooh, I wagged on that. I would have shot that shit, nigga. I wagged on that fucking shit. I didn't want to shoot that shit. Hell no.
Their plastic handcuff keys to get out of their restraints.
Alright, let's take it. I'll take it.
Officer Schwartz looks
What the fuck that name was? Swiss Bill?
and sees
Yeah. That nigga really gonna Swiss Bill? Oh, nigga.
Yeah, I think
This
so.
gonna make a difference, nigga. Give me that. Good deal, y'all. What's it?
After he calls over the radio,
Ooh.
one of the brothers is at
Stop
his
playing.
desk. He pulls over.
Hey. Gotcha.
And
Keep going the wrong way. There it is.
The Stovall brothers just systematically shooting at anything that comes their way.
a total of 17 officers are shot at during this night of terror.
Racing on us. It was
Yeah,
our
tough
job
one.
to stop them any way we could.
Kelly Blue Book is your trust. One stop. Pricing, fixing, selling, and
Pick up
instant cash
one.
offer. Car show.
He's figuring it out. You notice his defense switching down?
So you always get the
Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, damn.
That shit too early. That's what that was.
I hate that too early. That's a bad one.
You pressed that shit too early, nigga. I know. I did that shit before too.
For all of the hits, KBB.com.
Jordan.
That's what it was supposed to do.
I know.
So Jason's
Appreciate that.
brothers to
Young Boy.
department to jail.
Why? Ooh, that's that fucking thing that stop and go.
Michael Stovall reaches into his waistband and pulls out a 9mm handgun.
That's nice. For sure. I was trying to force feed this foot.
He was able to shoot Jason in the head. And that's when Jason wrecked his
Sit back.
car.
Mm-hmm.
The Stovall brothers were able to get out of the car.
I pressed it. I pressed it.
He can't come in here. I ain't scared.
And they proceed to unload their weapons.
I had to one time. I had to one time. I thought about it too late. That's why I hesitated.
I'd called on duty that night and immediately
That's
got
it.
dispatched.
I should have shot that. That's me.
Yeah, That's it. I got you. Oh, there, wow, too early. There we go. That's money. Bang, bang. Let's go.
Shots fired.
Oh, that's just fucked up.
I know them niggas like, what the fuck, nigga?
Like, we told you more, bro. That's what's up, bro. Oh, man.
One of the doors was open.
What street we on, nigga? 8?
9.
9?
We got 9.
Strikes from the inside of the car. I see.
Hey, but you wanted to play with that 61 overall, remember?
Hell no, I didn't, nigga. Hell no, nigga. That's why I said play with this nigga. That's how he work with, nigga. I'd rather play with this nigga. That 61, nigga. Hell nah. DC carrying his little weight around, shit.
I rolled Jason over.
Got this foot from black to bronze now. Oh man, that's hilarious.
And this is the part that I don't talk about. He had a hole.
That boy averaged 1 point.
Under his chin, and I noticed it all.
1 point. Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, make that school.
After notifying dispatch.
Boy, averaging 1 bucket a game.
I'm there, boy. I'm there. I'm there.
I know it's not working. And then once fire rescue got there.
That's money. That's money.
Give me that.
That's money. I ain't gonna argue with you.
It's a very tense situation.
Stupid.
Officer Schwartz.
Oh, he's a pop.
Unconscious.
I said
I then moved the patient
that was me. That was me.
I'm quite certain that he is going to die.
Yeah.
At that point, I broke down.
That's you.
Everything had hit me at that point.
I don't know why I played it backwards.
And was that he just had a son 2 weeks prior.
I'm trying to rip that shit out that shit.
The number one thing that
Come on in, nigga.
out there that night.
This thing ass bull ass shit.
It obviously changed my life forever. In January 2001, Jason and I got married. And
Leave me open there,
we
nigga.
found shortly afterwards that
I was waiting on you to cut though to keep it real.
Junior
I was just waiting
that he had been
for
shot.
that. She was just stupid.
Jason was declared dead as soon as he arrived at the hospital. I wanted to see Jason and they wouldn't let me. The nurse and the nuns kept telling me the last thing you want to do is to see him the way he is. I was pretty angry because I didn't believe him. I needed to see, I needed to know. I finally convinced them that they didn't have much of a choice.
Very cold status.
When I did actually see Jason, he was covered in a blanket.
Ooh.
And there was a towel.
I thought I had that angle.
The towel's red.
Oh, give me that. Yeah. Beat that shit back to Mexico.
I touched his arm and his chest, and they told me, "Don't touch him, Cheryl. He's evidence."
Ooh.
That's not evidence. That's my husband. Brothers shoot Officer Schwartz. They go by foot to Florence, where they've got a mobile home stashed with weapons.
Yeah, shit.
With the brutality with the Stovall twins.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't that about a bit?
Get right back. That shit crazy.
They would have been capable of inflicting anything on anyone.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm thinking this was probably the worst
Was I not there?
I've seen in my career. I don't believe that anybody knew what they were capable of.
I don't know. That's the first miss I've had in like, what? Yes? At least a 3, like a 3. I believe.
Welcome aboard your new summer obsession.
I'm there.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental minimum and a pie.
Right there.
Next stop, Love Island.
Get ready for one more streaming summer. Love Island USA
Hey.
coming soon. Only on
That's us. Let's go,
Just it.
Snowball Brothers shoot. They go by foot to Florence. That's a pretty good, I think, 5-mile distance. They go to the Alpine Village Trailer Park, where they've got a mobile home stashed with weapons. We're talking AK-47 and SKS. They've got all sorts of handguns. They've got helmets. They've got vests
Go right for the time.
for a battle.
It was a Friday night. I was actually off duty. I was sitting in my house with my wife, and we heard a lot of sirens going off. And in a small town, of course, you can hear them from everywhere. I told my wife that I needed to figure out what was going on and grab my handheld radio. And that's when I heard that it was a sheriff's deputy that had been shot brutally.
He starts to go out the door, and I told him, I said, look, not a hero crowd tonight. Just go direct traffic, stay out of the thick of things.
I went to the police department and I was briefed on what had happened. We knew that it was twin brothers. Joe
That nigga came back.
They were on the run at this point.
The Stovall brothers have their weapons. They're fleeing from,
No, we got the fireball. That's probably why.
and they need a getaway vehicle. So they go out right there in their trailer park and point a weapon at a neighbor who is just arriving. They commandeer his pickup truck, and they're in the process of loading that pickup truck and getting ready to get out of there.
I'm at the police department, and I activated all my officers and sent them out to 3 specific areas where I thought they might go if they were to come into town. Corporal Toby Bethel and Officer Eric Baker respond to a trailer park near Alpine Village.
We were just going to go to the trailer and just do surveillance on it.
They were able to sit on the outside of the trailer park and see this trailer, but they weren't sure of the exact number. And at one point, we're going to go inside and confirm the number so we know that we're looking at the right trailer.
As we're driving by, I noticed a red pickup truck off to the left, and I noticed some shadows.
Oh, that was a slow ass motherfucking car.
I heard pop, pop, pop.
Hell no.
And I felt a sharp burn in the middle of my back. Turned my head, I looked over at my partner, and I said, oh no, he got us, didn't he? Knowing that if we didn't get out of there, we'd go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nigga, I was trying to hold fucking analogs. I mean, the fucking icon pass shit. Nigga, that shit would like click that. That's all it took me so long to pass that.
I was really like, you were going to the basket too. I was like, alright, well, I guess I'm going to get to you.
My driver's side window had broke. So I remember grabbing a hold of the top of my window and trying to pull myself out.
Fuck.
But I couldn't pull myself out because my feet were trapped. So I'm laying out the window and I'm in and out of consciousness. Eric jumps out of the side and just kind of hides down. And thank God that he did, because the Stovalls
He lost a pick.
They were watching to see if I was alive, and if they would have saw any movement, they were going to go ahead and kill me. You've got two guys on a rampage. The mission is to go.
He lagging. He fake lagging or he quit? No, he fake lagging.
Ooh.
Incorrect password.
Good D, nigga.
Exclamation question. 3.
Oh.
This is ridiculous, man.
Like space jam out this motherfucker.
Racer. Sometimes
I ain't even know you saw that motherfucker.
He started for minutes. It was weird. The animation was weird.
Explorer website where I compared home insurance rates.
Yeah, that was a triple block, nigga.
Some are beyond that. I will give you $100 if you can tell me what this is.
I was because he been throwing it to me after he was ready.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Get that shit out of here, boy.
Stovall's drove up to where I read.
If you want to leave me alone or go lay the fuck down,
just sitting in the truck, talking and laughing. They were watching to see if I was alive, and if they would have saw any movement, they were going to go ahead and kill me.
That was a blog.
So I go to sleep, and I hear this bang, bang. And the bangs that I heard were actual gunshots. So I jump in my Excursion, and I drive down the road, and I can see the sirens and the lights and everything. So I get close, and I can't drive any further. They've got the road blocked off. So I get out, and the deputy said I couldn't go in there. He was worried that I was going to be on fire. And at the time, I thought it was weird, but it wasn't until later that I found out that my husband got shot literally 5 blocks from my house. I probably passed the Stovall brothers going towards the scene. They hadn't been gone very long.
We get another call for an officer involved shooting in Florence. And my first thought was, oh Lord. A lot of the same people that were there from the first incident were on this one. And I come around the corner, and probably 4 feet in front of me is another police officer. I know this man. I teach, and I have this man's daughter in my classroom. I ran over to Toby, and he looks over at me and says, John, he says, I can't move my legs. And I'm like, oh. I get him out of the car, and there's a lot of blood. Toby's got his vest on, and I remember cutting his vest away, and he's got two bullet holes in the center of his back. I was shot 4 times. I was shot 2 times with an AK-47, right in the middle of my back, and I was shot once in my shoulder and once in my bicep. After the Stovall brothers drove away from me, thinking that I was dead, they drove through town looking for more cops to kill.
And at that point, they make their way across the river into my town. When I heard the radio traffic and shots fired, I get into my car. It was our intent to stop them any way we could. I still try to figure out what's going on because it's total confusion. It just happened. I didn't know what they were driving at the time. It wasn't until I got halfway there to the trailer park when I had one of my officers who happened to be on foot and scream at me, "You just passed him, we just passed him."